Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 16th Planning Board meeting, City of Portsmouth. Call the meeting to order. We have minutes to be approved from September 28th, October 19th, and the 26th. I can add that the 28th work session minutes I had to go through on tape repeatedly for my meeting with legal on the rules, and those minutes looked okay with me. The rest of them, ready for brief comments on any.
Second.
I can't move.
Second.
Okay. Any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have a request of Lonza Biologics owner for property located at 101 International Drive, requesting an amended site plan approval for Phase 2, which includes fit-up of building number 1 and utility building, construction of a temporary surface parking lot and gravel area for construction trailers, parking and laydown area for the location of proposed building number 2. This property is on Assessor's Map 305, Lot 6, and lies in the Airport Business Commercial District, LU 23-108. Who is here to present this application?
Rick, can I interrupt for 1 second? Can we put an alternate in for the missing member?
Good point. We have,
Jane's gone.
Andrew, would you like to sit for Ms. Bagala?
I'd be glad to, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for interrupting me. I did it last week. And for Neil, too.
Thank you. Neil Hansen with Tyne Bond on behalf of Lonza Biologics. So I'm going to go over a brief background or semi-brief background of this project. So we are requesting an amended site plan approval for a project that was originally granted site plan approval on January 17th of 2029. So we obviously have a lot of new planning board members since then, and
2029?
2019.
2029 hasn't happened yet. I know I was here.
We all get a big
Gap
yes.
in
It's
time.
that pre-Thanksgiving thing.
Yeah.
I get it.
it's been a long week, month, year.
Get that
2019, thank you. Oh my God, off to a hot start.
All good.
All right, 2019. That approval has been amended a couple times since then. The first was in September of 2019, and then again in January of this year. So the original approval had 7 conditions subsequent. There were 2.5 to 2.11 on the approval letter. Conditions subsequent 2.8 of that recommendation stated that the recommendation only applied to phases 1A and 1B of the original approval, and that subsequent phases of development shall require a submission of updated plans and supporting documents, and notice public hearings with the city's technical advisory committee and planning board for those amended site approvals, which is what we're here for tonight. So if you go to the next page, please. So this was the master site plan that was originally approved in 2019. It consisted of 3 industrial manufacturing buildings. They were all 3 stories and 105 feet tall. The original approval also included 2 parking garages. If you go to the next sheet. This was phase 1 of the original approval, which was the construction of building 1 and the 2 parking garages. All right, can you go back 1? I think you went. Oh, anyway, this was the first administrative approval in September of 2019. This changed the master plan to replace the parking garage on the bottom of the screen here. This parking garage was converted to a utility building, and the height of the other parking garage was increased to make up the difference in parking. Everything else from the original approval remained the same on the master plan. If you go to the next sheet. That administrative approval also moved the construction of that utility building and the parking garage into phase 1 as outlined in the original approval, where we were permitted to build phase 1A and 1B. If you go to the next sheet. So in January of this year, we went back and received a second administrative approval. This time it was to reduce the height of building 1 from the 3 stories and 105 feet to the single story and 36 feet, which is being constructed today. That was due to the client that Lonza has brought in to occupy that space. Their needs were met by that single-story building. And with the pharmaceutical manufacturing, speed to market is critical, and this was the fastest way to get that building constructed and operational. So that approval was granted in January. If you go to the next sheet. So this is the Phase 1B of that administrative approval, which is the Building 1, single-story, 36 feet, and about half of the originally approved utility building footprint. If you've driven by the highway or Pease today, you'll see that that is currently under construction. So if you go to the next page, so this is a Google Earth aerial from May of this year, which showed the status of the site at that point. So Phase 1A of the project was taking Hodgson Brook, which was in a culvert through the site originally, and daylighting it up. So you can see that work complete here up at the top of the page. And then a lot of this site work was related to that project, as well as some overflow contractor parking for work that is still ongoing within the existing building. The other piece of Phase 1A, the other major piece of Phase 1A was there was a soil management plan that had been performed on this site, and there was some small pockets of contaminated soil. All of that has since been moved up to the tip of the iron parcel here and capped, and that is will remain there indefinitely. So the site, from a soil contamination perspective, has been, that soil management plan has been closed and completed. The stream's been daylighted, and then they have moved on to Phase 1B, which is the construction of the shell of Building 1 and the cub. You go to the next page. So this is a photo that was taken on Monday showing the current state of the site. You can see here is the excavation for the utility building footprint, and then in the background here is Building 1, and there's about a quarter of the footprint of steel has been erected to date. So that is where the site currently is. So if you could go to the next sheet. So onto the amended approval, which is what we're here for tonight. So the amended site plan, master plan, as I've already described, has changed very minimally from the original approval. Again, Building 1 has been reduced in height to 36 feet. The cub, the overall footprint has shrunk a little to make room for this exterior utility yard adjacent to it. And then there's been a couple other minor changes to the site plan, which I'll go through as we go through the plans quickly. So if you go to the next sheet, so the only thing that's changed on this sheet from the original approval is we moved. There's a gate that's going to be going in here, a security gate, and the original plan had this turnaround on the inside of the gate. We moved that to the outside of the gate so that if cars inadvertently come down the driveway, they have a place to turn around before they have to go through security. Actually, what I didn't mention is this site, as part of the 2019 approval, and then was subsequently amended as part of a 2021 approval. The lot that we're discussing tonight has been merged with the 101 International lot to create a single 46-acre parcel. So what was formerly Goose Bay Drive, or at least this portion of it, is now on Lonza property and is now their private driveway, essentially. So if you go to the next sheet, so on this one, the only minor change here is the original approval had a fire lane, which is still on the plan, coming between the utility building and Building 1. We've added this secondary connection to maintain that through connection on Goose Bay. Both sides will be gated, so that will just be an emergency access.
Could I just ask what sheet number that is that you're on? It's hard to see it. I'm just
106.
A C106.
C106.
Thank you.
So that was added as part of this last round of coordination with Lonza, and that was more for a lost truck driver coming in the car entrance and not being able. So trucks can make it through the site, but it's obviously a lot easier to open a gate and let them go straight through if need be. But the intent is that all the trucks will enter from, if you go to the next sheet, the remaining public portion of Goose Bay Drive And then this cul-de-sac was part of the original approval as well. And this will be the delivery entrance, which will also be gated and have a security guardhouse there as well. So if you want to flip through, yeah, you can keep going. So the next sheets are the grading and drainage for the master plan. Nothing has changed from the original approval in that regard. Master plan calls for 2 gravel wetlands and a rain garden for stormwater treatment. They were all sort of designed to treat different parts of the site. So gravel wetland 1 was designed to treat the portion of the site that's being constructed currently. And then gravel wetland 2, you go to the next sheet. Up here, adjacent to the future building 3 will also be constructed as part of this phase. And as we get into the phase 1 plans, that'll be for the surface parking lot that is being constructed in the location of building 3 to serve the needs of building 1 until the parking garage can be designed and built.
Could you continue to call out the sheet numbers as you navigate through?
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
going numerically for now.
Okay, very good.
I will jump ahead at some point. I'll let you know when. So from the drainage and stormwater perspective, nothing else has changed from the original approval. If you want to go to the next sheet. So again, utility building, future parking garage, building 1, building 2, and then the constructed or recently constructed Hodgson Brook restoration is on the right here. If you go to the next sheet. And then again, here's gravel wetland 1, which will be constructed as part of phase 1B, this current phase, and then future rain garden, which would be constructed in concurrence with building 2. If you go to the next sheet. So utilities, as we've gotten into construction of phase 1B, we've gotten into a lot more detailed utility coordination with Eversource specifically. So the change in that regard is we will need to construct this off-site duct bank, which runs from just about the Cisco driveway up here down along the opposite side of Goose Bay Drive. And then if you go to the next sheet, it will terminate at a existing manhole. And this is it's not Wentworth Douglas anymore, but the medical office facilities in the back, just on the other side of their driveway. And then we'll connect our site infrastructure in there for building 1 and the utility building. Most of the utilities shown on this plan will be constructed as part of this first phase of construction, with the exception of the direct connections to any of the future buildings. So the water main will be looped all the way through the site. About 90% of the sewer will be constructed as part of phase 1. For this phase, the only building that needs gas service is the utility building, and that will come off of Goose Bay. That's been coordinated with Unitil. If you want to go to the next sheet. And then again, most of this has remained unchanged from the original approval, with the exception this utility yard. There's a lot more detail shown in there as that design's been worked out with the building design and showing the correct number of transformers and other storage tanks that they'll require as part of this operation. If you go to the next sheet. So this is where we jump ahead to, this is C-164. This is the overall site plan for phase 2. So this is where we see the 150 space surface parking lot. So again, this goes back to the speed to market, and the reasoning for reducing the overall height of building 1 to begin with was what's the fastest way to get this building open, and that's to basically build only what you need for this building. So that's where this parking lot is specifically sized and designed to serve the needs of this building. We are going to be constructing gravel wetland 2 as part of this. This parking area is smaller than the building 3 footprint, so we were able to utilize the treatment system, this gravel wetland that was designed for that building, to treat that parking lot. In the future, when that building goes to be built, we'll just be able to reconnect the drainage and continue to use that gravel wetland as originally designed. As part of this phase, we'll also be constructing the cul-de-sac and the entrance gates, which includes adding a third lane for those gates. The center lane will be reversible, so morning shift, you can have 2 lanes in. If you need it in the afternoon, you can reverse that center lane. It's probably not a huge need for that, but in the event they need to, it will be able to have that capability. If you go to the next sheet. So again, this is 165, the next sheet in the set. Again, it's detailed 150 space parking lot. As part of this amended approval, we did have a third-party review for stormwater and traffic. And as part of that, it was a suggestion of the traffic review that we add this center sidewalk through this parking lot for pedestrian access to the building, which we thought was a really good idea, and have added that. Go to the next sheet. So again, this is what is the shell of these buildings are currently being constructed, but utility building 1, the center drive is being constructed as part of it. If we go to the next sheet, we have the loading area, and then the cul-de-sac down into Goose Bay. If you go to the next sheet, so for stormwater, I've touched on a lot of this already, but we'll be utilizing gravel wetland 2 for stormwater treatment for this surface parking lot. You can actually see in this plan is the as-built grading for that capped area that I mentioned earlier, where the contaminated soil has been stockpiled and capped. If you go to the next sheet. So in the event that there is a lag between the completion of building 1 and any future construction on the site, we've graded out this the right side of the site here in order that it will be left level and smooth. And then if you go to the next sheet, with a detention basin at the end of it to mitigate the stormwater in that interim condition. And then that will be loam seeded for stabilization in the event that there's a delay between this phase and any potential future phases. If you go to the next sheet, so this is just showing what is being constructed for utilities as part of this first phase. These are all as part of the Phase 1A approval, so all these are in the current construction plans. You can see this is where the water line loops through the site and connects back to corporate. This goes all the way through and ties into Goose Bay on the south end of the site. Electric duct bank I previously talked about. And if we go to the next sheet, you can see all the utilities running through the central drive of the site: sewer, electric, water, lighting conduit, all that is being constructed as part of this phase as well. I want to go to the next. So I threw this in here. This is the Phase 2 landscape plan. So this will all be done as part of the fit up of this building. The master landscape plan obviously covers the entire site, but there's anything that's within the future build areas we don't want to plant at this time, because it would just get damaged and run over and all that as part of other phases of construction. But we have include the plantings that will be sort of outside the limits of any future projects in this phase. So just street trees up along the former Goose Bay driveway entrance and through the site. If you go to the next sheet, and then again continuing down the driveway, and then you'll see on this side this large hatch area is a wildlife conservation seed mix that we've specified for that area. So again, the timing of that, anything beyond this is sort of unknown. So we wanted to make sure there was provisions in place for if that doesn't happen immediately, that the site's left in a good condition, and that conservation mix is something that we obviously don't want to plant nice. And then again, plantings down around the bottom of the site and along Goose Bay. So that's really all that I had for the presentation. This is the photometric plan for the parking lot. I think I included all the other lighting sheets, but it's just pretty typical. And then these are the elevations of the 2 buildings that are currently under construction. So that is the run through the plans. We did do an updated traffic study as part of this submission, which was one of the stipulations of the original approval. We had to add 6 additional intersections to our study area, And we did that, and the traffic study was included as part of the submission. And as I mentioned a little while ago, was also peer reviewed as part of this process. So that's all I have for presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the applicant? Yes, Jim.
Yes, Mr. Hanson, I'm just trying to understand the chronology of approvals. This was first approved in January of 2019,
Yep.
and then since then you've had a couple of administrative approvals, is that right?
Yes, so those were, I would say, almost completely or completely just changes to the phasing and which buildings were sort of included in that first phase. So it sort of went from having just building one to building one utility building parking lot or parking garage back to just building one utility building. So we kind of went in a full circle. So back in 2019, this was, a master plan approval. And then now that we have a specific end user, at least for this first building, the focus was able to be narrowed and the scope refined for what needs to be built now as part of this phase.
Okay, so this is the first time you've been back before the planning board since 2019?
Yes.
Okay. As far as the traffic study, I noticed there's some significant impacts to the regional transportation network, Route New Hampshire 33 and the Spalding Turnpike. If you look at, you're probably familiar with this capacity chart here. It looks like it's pretty much a pink rash of level service F. And I was just wondering if the applicant or PDA, do they feel any responsibility to mitigate those traffic impacts?
I don't know if I can speak to the traffic study itself. I'm not a traffic engineer. I think that we've had this study. It was reviewed by a third party, and I think at the end of that, everyone was comfortable with the findings of the study. The original approval for this site had a higher intensity of use, and so this amended approval is actually a reduction in intensity. I don't know if I can speak to it more than that.
Okay. I also just like to confirm, this is the approval letter from 19, and I just want to, have all these conditions been met then?
So we did include in the submission package a letter that outlines how each of those had been addressed or we were planning to address. I can go through them if you would like.
No, I don't need it. I was just, it was either all or not. I guess if it's some of them, I can go back and look at which ones hadn't been.
So the one that hasn't yet but will need to be is updating their Lonza's water service permit with the city. And I
Okay.
think that's the only one that would need to be completed prior to the fit up.
Okay, and how much water will this new facility use a day?
I don't know.
And will it use similar to the other facility, which is about 360,000 gallons a day?
I mean, the other facility is a 800,000 square foot building. This is 136,000, so I don't know, but it would seem unlikely.
But this will be 800,000, correct?
The
Eventually?
master plan is about 800,000 square feet, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Greg, did you have?
I just wanted to know what the date of the traffic study was.
July 17th of this year.
Thank you.
Yes, Andrew.
Less of a question, more of a comment suggestion. 2 new parking lots with a lot of asphalt. Be phenomenal to have some variety of solar canopy or solar component added in. I
Actually
think we-
being looked at.
phenomenal. That's a
Yes.
great answer. Thank you.
So, yeah, so Lonza has a very big corporate culture strategy with a big emphasis on sustainability. So they're always looking at different angles for solar or other sustainable alternatives for pretty much their entire operation. And yeah, solar has actually recently come up, and they're looking at it. It's still at a pretty high level right now, but they are looking at it for rooftops and parking canopies as well. It's very conceptual at this point, but
Seems like a great opportunity to lead the charge.
Any other? Yes, Corey.
Thank you. Real quick, and I apologize, even though I was here in 2019, I didn't catch this at the time, and it may have changed since then. But do you mind just going over the capped soils area and just how that's regulated now, and then moving it on into the future?
so the contaminants that were on site was chlordane contamination, which is very common out at Pease. It was an old insecticide that was sprayed on foundations. We found it on this site in pretty isolated pockets. We did test the whole site, and then PDA has maps showing where the historical applications were, and we found it right where those maps said it would be. Chlordane itself it doesn't leach, so it's pretty harmless as long as you know where it is and it's contained. So the cap itself is basically just, we took all the soils on the site that had chlordane exceedances of state regulations. We put it in a pile and then put 3 feet of put a layer of fabric, basically just as a delineator, and then put 3 feet of clean material on top of it, and then it just will stay there forever.
All right. So is it being regulated by NHDS or?
We had a soil management plan.
Okay.
I don't think there's any formal submission process to DES. I'm not entirely sure on that, though. But there was a whole plan associated with where it was located, how it was going to be moved, how it was going to be stockpiled, and then there was a closure letter that was prepared and submitted to, I think, just the PDA. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't know of any direct involvement with DES related to that.
But they were involved with the soil management plan, correct, or no?
I think it goes to the DES, but there's not a formal submission or review process. There is for groundwater. So there is obviously PFAS in the groundwater here, so that's why if you drive by, the dewatering system is frac tanks, carbon filters, and we have a groundwater discharge permit for that. That's all regulated by DES.
And then just based on that water, how's the stream restoration going? Obviously, that stream saw a lot of flow this past summer.
Yeah,
It's been in place for a couple of years now, so.
This is actually the first year.
Okay.
It was mostly constructed last year, but this is the first full growing season it's had. It was planted in the end of March, early April. It's held up really well. So we have a 5-year monitoring requirement through our wetland permit. So this is year 1. So that stream will be monitored through the end of 2026 with the final report due in 2027. And so that will be monitored annually for vegetative growth and then any erosion. And then depending on what they find, we'll have to develop any sort of mitigation plan to fix anything that comes up over the next 5 years. But for the amount of rain we've gotten this year, we've had absolutely no issues.
Okay,
So it's done really well.
Excellent.
I've got a question, you just educate me. What is previously deconstructed soil?
Previously deconstructed soil?
It's on it's a couple of places on your plans. It's on sheet 161. If you don't know, then that's the answer.
What'd you say, 161?
C 161 right in the middle.
Oh, so the survey that was done in 2016, I believe, and there was a material stockpile on the site when the survey was done, which still shows up on the existing conditions topo. That pile is gone now, and so that's what that note is basically noting that there's a pile shown on the existing condition plan, but that pile doesn't actually exist anymore.
I got that from the topo. I was just curious why it was called deconstructed soil. It was just somebody's idea of construction spoil?
So that pile came from when Lonza built the 101C expansion in 2008. That was all the topsoil they stripped off that site, and they just stockpiled it in that location. And so that pile was actually tested as part of the soil management plan that was done last year, or that was completed last year. So that pile was deconstructed. There was additional testing done. And then there was a few pockets of contamination in there that went to the cap, and the rest of it was just spread out in place.
And on traffic, you guys seem to address pretty much everything that the peer review did, except the 3 intersections they mentioned in their last letter. Are you planning to do anything about that?
So those 3, I believe, PDA spoke to in the letter they had submitted as part of that response. That those intersections are in their jurisdiction, and they're the ones that are monitoring.
Basically, they don't feel the time is right to do post-COVID traffic counts, essentially.
Well, so we know from our counts that we still haven't returned to pre-COVID traffic levels. So I think that was part of it. You want to say anything else to that?
Good evening. My name is Michael Mates, Director of Engineering at Peace Development Authority. I think as I explained the last time we were up here, we do have a pretty robust traffic engineering monitoring program at Pease. We work with our transportation consultant, VHB. We've done a master plan and a couple of updates since then. In addition, we've done additional counts just to verify where we stand at the Trayport. Plus, we have Lonza and various other tenants who have come in and done traffic studies. We continue to monitor. We continue to apply for grants. We've received 3 grants to improve some of the roadways here at Pease. We try to get to do more and more. But as Neil has said, as far as that one intersection at Corporate International Manchester Square, the peak hour volumes have not come back to 2016 pre-COVID numbers. So at this time, we're not prepared to do a study, but we will continue to monitor it. We will continue to rely on the advice from our transportation consultant.
The same thing for the other 2 intersections?
We've got grants for those, so we are working on improving those intersections.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just one follow-up. So, I'm not trying to, make a mountain out of this cap thing. But is there any signage or anything? I'm just, my concern just being 20 years down the road, is making sure that that area is still well known that while it's not a landfill, it is just a capped area, but that it doesn't get disturbed in some way.
So we have an as-built survey of it, which was included in the closure letter to the PDA, so they
Okay.
have that on file. And then also it's very obvious.
Okay. So,
It's a 6 to 8 foot high mound that is just right at the tip of the lot there. So just by looking at it, you can tell something's going on there. But yeah, there's no signage, nothing like that.
okay. So, well, it's good the PDA has the as-built. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, they definitely have very good records of where all these spots are.
Okay.
No other board comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Does anybody here wish to speak to, for, or against this application? Or anybody on Zoom? Second call. Nobody comes forward. I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Board,
I'll make a motion that we vote to recommend amended site plan approval to the PDA board.
Discussion?
we need a second.
Second.
Discussion?
I've looked over this project and a lot of its aspects, and I think this is a perfect fit for Rockingham Planning Commission project of regional impact development. And I think that any motion we make, we should have that included, that this project be sent to Rockingham for regional impact development analysis for traffic and for water use.
Mr. Chairman, can I speak to that? I know the public's closed, but.
You're not, it's up to the board. You're not supposed to, yes.
We don't have the jurisdiction. The PDA, we as a planning board, because we don't actually make final decisions regarding Pease Development Authority, we can't make that determination for those projects.
You're right, we can make a recommendation to the board,
Recommendation.
and part of a recommendation will be that it go to regional impact development analysis.
We can recommend, but yeah, they don't have to
Right,
take
it's our
it.
recommendation that that to the Pease board, that this project be sent there and evaluated under traffic and water use.
Okay, so it'd be a recommendation to the PDA, basically, like the traffic recommendation we had some time ago. Was that a proposed motion?
Yeah, can I amend the motion then with that information?
You can propose it. Then it's up to these two if they want to accept it. If you get a second.
Second.
Well, no, Corey made the motion, I
Yeah.
seconded.
Corey first.
So recommend to the PDA that this project be reviewed as a regional, sorry, Jim, I didn't.
Impact development.
Impact development.
For traffic and water use.
Are we still having discussion?
In a minute, we see if Corey's accepted that.
I'll accept it for discussion
For discussion.
purposes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we're discussing. Yes, Greg?
Can we add more discussion or no?
Discussion.
Okay. So having recently went to a Newington Select Board meeting, they're not happy with Pease. They're not happy with Portsmouth. They're not happy with Greenland. They feel like they're the redheaded stepchild. And 80% of the town of Newington's water comes from the Haven well. And these guys are building 800,000 square feet that are going to be coming directly from the Haven well because that's the primary source out at Pease. So I believe that Jim's assertion that it's a regional impact is absolutely 100% correct, and we should recommend it, whether it's regulatory or not.
Can they come to the, PDA come to the conclusion on their own to request it without us? Okay,
Yes, it's up to them.
got it. I mean, if we don't recommend it, they can.
They could on their own volition,
Correct.
yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We're ready for a vote on that?
Could you read the motion again, please?
Well, so Corey accepted it for discussion. Are you moving forward with it?
Amended motion.
Vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the main motion. So first is a vote on the amendment that was made by Mr. Hewitt, seconded by Mr. Mahana, accepted by Corey. So
We have a roll call vote, Mr. Chair.
we can have a roll call vote if you request it, yes.
Thank you.
On the amended.
On the
on
amendment.
on the
Just
condition.
in the amendment.
Okay. Mr. Simonis? So this is adding the
Amendment.
condition, the recommended condition?
Yes.
Mr. Mahana?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Moreau?
No.
Mr. Hewitt?
Yes.
Mr. Almeida?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
City Manager?
No.
Chair?
Yes.
Why do I only have 7?
It's 7-2, right?
2, 4, 6, 7. Joe voted yes.
Just 7 yes and 2 no.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what you got?
Yep. So it passes.
Okay, the amendment passes. Any further discussion on the main motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? They are passed. Next item on the agenda, we have a request of Springbrook Condominium Association as owner for property located at 0 Springbrook Circle, requesting a wetland conditional use permit from section 1010-1740 for the installation of a concrete sidewalk within the city's 100-foot wetland buffer. The 5-foot wide by 174-foot long sidewalk will add additional 870 square feet of impervious surface to the buffer. New buffer plantings are proposed to offset the impacts of the new impervious surface, and a culvert is proposed where the sidewalk will cross over an existing ditch. This property is located in Assessors Map 272, Lot 6, and lies in the Gateway Corridor, or G1, and Single Residence A, or SRA, and Rural R districts. LU 23-157, who is here to present this application?
Good evening. Dean Savramis, Vice President of the Springbrook Condominium Association, and with me is David Waja, President of the Springbrook Condominium Association. I think there should be a slide that has a site plan of the entire property. It should be in chronological order at the beginning.
This is the first one.
Okay.
2 pages.
Is that it?
It's the first one.
So are those all the slides?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll work with this. So if you go to the other slide first. Okay, this shows the existing conditions of the area in which we want to install a walkway. So Springbrook, for those of you who may not be aware, it's located on Route 1, right across from Village Green Plaza, which is where McKinnon's is located, and the entrance is immediately adjacent to Bonneville Jeep. It was developed in the mid-'80s. It's comprised of approximately 84 acres. Approximately 32 of those acres are dedicated conservation land, much of which includes the Berries Brook watershed. So this particular location, let me see here. So there's a couple of, there's a large pond on Springbrook towards the back of the property where the dedicated conservation land begins. And all of the stormwater for the property, as well as some stormwater from Route 1, discharge into the pond. The issue that we've had is there's a building 5 here, and there's a building 6 over here. And I apologize, I did include aerial photographs and a site plan with the submission. I'm not sure why they're not included. It would have been a lot easier for me to explain and orientate everybody to this. But again, I'll do the best I can with what's here. So we have approximately 20 condominium units that access the parking lot that's right here. And each unit is allowed 2 vehicles per unit, which would be 40 vehicles. This parking lot is really only capable of accommodating between 26 and 28 units. So it causes a problem in the evening. People get home late from work, and they don't have a parking space in the parking lot that is connected to the walkways that connect their unit. So they may have to park elsewhere on the property, longer walk. They don't necessarily have walkways. In July and August on a nice night, if you're mobile, it's probably not a big inconvenience, but you have mobility issues or during inclement weather, it becomes more problematic. So we were looking for the most economical and least impact solution to provide some relief to this parking problem here. And we had really a couple of options. There's a just to the north here, if you will, there's a traffic circle on the property, and in the center, it's just a wooded area. We considered installing a new parking lot, but that would create a very, very large impervious surface, which ultimately the water from that would get discharged into the pond, and obviously the cost of that was significantly more. The other option was to install a walkway. There's an existing walkway here that connects these units to this parking lot. And we have another parking lot over here that gets very little use and always has quite a bit of available parking. So we wanted to connect this walkway to this parking lot, which would allow these 8 units a direct option, as well as the 8 units that are here as well. So, potentially, there's 4 units here and 4 units here. So it would be a total of 8 units that could utilize this area very easily. And the folks over here in this building, if they wanted to, they could use it as well if necessary. So what that was going to require is it was going to require the installation of a new concrete walkway, 5 feet wide, approximately 174 feet long. There is a drainage swale here, so there would be wing walls on both sides of the walkway with some type of a culvert to bridge this drainage swale. So we had a meeting with the on-site with the Conservation Commission back in October. Subsequently, we had a meeting here with the Conservation Commission to discuss the project, and they had came back with 8 stipulations, one of which was recommended, the other 7 were required. And when we reviewed the letter, everything was pretty consistent with the meeting. We felt that there was some ambiguity in the letter, and we were concerned. We didn't want to move forward and then potentially afterwards be perceived as over-promising and under-delivering, or not living up to what was expected of us based on the stipulations. And we subsequently met with Kate Hammett from the City of Portsmouth to just kind of go over the letter, what our understanding was, and she seemed to understand our position, suggested we write a letter to the planning board clarifying what our understanding was, and we had to make some amendments to the engineering plan, which we did, and that was subsequently submitted. And then there were some things on the engineering plan that wasn't really addressed, that didn't address some of the stipulations, so the letter also provided that information. So I guess I'll go through the stipulations in terms of what our understanding was and what it is that we're asking. So the first stipulation is that we install these wetland boundary markers that are provided by the City of Portsmouth every 50 feet along the existing wetland buffer. And in the letter, they wanted them set back 25 feet. So the wetland buffer, the pond that's in this area here, the pond bank is 3,300 feet approximately. And much of that is completely untouched. It's all wooded. It's natural. There's a 500-foot bank here that we refer to as our wetland buffer that receives some maintenance, and that's just really due to the fact that we've got 16 units that overlook the pond, and there's been a desire expressed that they want plantings there that are not going to get too tall, that's not going to obstruct their view of the pond. We view it as a visual resource. People aren't allowed to go on the pond and use it recreationally, but it is considered a visual resource there on the property. So there's 500, and the width of this wetland buffer that's been in place since the mid-'80s, it varies in width. In some cases, it's greater than 25 feet. In some areas, it's less than 25 feet. So when we spoke with the city officials, we said our understanding is that these markers will be placed along the boundary of the existing buffer, whether it's a little less than 25 feet or if it's greater than 25 feet. These markers will be placed every 50 feet along the edge of the existing buffer, and not necessarily dictated by a 25-foot offset. And that calculates to be 11 markers across this 500-foot dimension. The other stipulation was that we install a signage indicating no salt to be used on sidewalks within the wetland buffer. And we spoke with the city officials. We said, during the meeting, I know that we talked about, and on the site visit, we talked about making the new walkway a no salt area. And we would put up signs identifying the new walkway as a no salt area. We didn't recall there being any discussions of designating the existing walkways as being a no salt area. And we had some real concerns about doing so. Over the years, we have had a couple of slip and fall accidents out there at Springbrook where people did receive injuries. There's a clump of trees here, and there's some trees over here. So there's areas of these existing walkways in the wintertime that receive very little or no sunlight at all. So to not salt these areas, I think would be potentially hazardous or increase the hazards. And I don't know how the association's insurance carrier would react if we were to designate these existing walkways as no salt area. So what we were hoping to do is just limit the no salt area to the new walkway that's going to be installed. The stipulation 3 was that the new walkway, originally it was going to connect right here at this bend, and they wanted it shifted down 8 feet, the Conservation Commission did. So we did, and that's depicted in this revised drawing. So that's been incorporated into the drawing exactly as requested. Stipulation 4 was that the walkway be a maximum of 5 feet wide. And we talked about this during the Conservation Commission meeting, and we told them originally that it was going to be narrower, but it was brought to our attention that the current code requirement, or one of the current code requirements, was that it has to be 5 feet wide. And I think we consulted during the meeting with Peter Britz, and it was the current ADA requirement would be that the walkway of this nature would be 5 feet wide. So the only deviation was, rather than saying on the plans a maximum of 5 feet wide, we're saying that the walkway width be 5 feet. And that was just to avoid any potential error during construction. Maybe the contractor would think that, 4 feet would be sufficient if it says maximum of 5, and then we would end up with, an ADA violation that we would subsequently have to fix and go back in and disturb this area, further, which we would very much want to avoid. Stipulation 5 was that we extend the silt fence on this construction site to this point here, where this bend in the walkway is, or to the complete end of this new walkway. So we did that. We did extend the silt fence for the entire length along the new proposed walkway in the revised plan. Stipulation 6 was regarding the lighting. They wanted us to install downward casting pipe bollards along the walkway here to prevent the casting of light into the wetland area. So after the meeting, we got a preliminary or an approximate cost estimate from the lighting contractor that has done work out on this property for us for many years. And the cost for that lighting was a lot more than we expected. It was estimated to be about $5,000, which is about a 23% increase over the overall project cost. The concern we had with that was really twofold. And what I would say is Springbrook's comprised of 144 residential condos, all 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And one of the things that we've prided ourselves on the many years we've served on the board is keeping it an affordable place to live. For years we used to claim that Springbrook per square foot was the most affordable place in Portsmouth to live for home ownership. I don't know if that's still true because prices continue to go up, but I think it's in the top 4, arguably. And we worked very hard at controlling the cost to make Springbrook an affordable place to live. And the reality is, the way condos work, all of the funds to operate the property come from the unit owners. There's really no way to engage in any project with an expense that the unit owners won't absorb or have to bear. The other thing is the pipe wall is, that type of lighting it's very nice. It's beautiful, it's attractive, it's effective, but this isn't really a high-end luxury property, and they would really, I think, be out of place for the character of this particular property. So what we would like to propose instead was here and here there are a series of storage sheds that project out from the building a little bit, and there's electrical power in those sheds. And in the past, when we've had to install supplemental lighting on Springbrook, we've come off of those sheds with some type of lighting. And I think we could come off of those sheds, which is fairly close to the walkway, and install a directional LED fixture, low wattage. We don't need a lot of light. In fact, there's a lot of indirect lighting here now from the parking lot. And if we weren't going to designate this as a no-salt area, I think we would be okay with the lighting that's already there. But because we're going to designate it as a low-salt area, we'd like to take a conservative position and provide some additional lighting. So at night, it's very, very clear where people are stepping and whatnot. And I do think we could come up with some low wattage, maybe just 2 LED fixtures, very directional, and if we needed to install a visor or get a fixture with a visor to prevent casting light into the wetlands, I'm pretty confident that we'd be able to do that at a fraction of the cost and still achieve the desired outcome that the Conservation Commission is seeking. So that's an alternative that we would like, to have consideration given to. Stipulation 7 was they wanted us to establish a restoration plan for this wetlands buffer. There's a couple of areas in particular where the parking lot is here. In the wintertime, the plows are in there, they're pushing snow around, and there's some bare spots in here with the vegetation. And over here as well, they identified in the buffer some bare spots. So there was talk about adding some supplemental plantings. There's also a pretty large clump of invasive species of Phragmites that has really kind of grown and is densely filled in this area. So what we were going to do is develop a wetlands buffer maintenance plan to remove the invasive species, and my understanding is that there's a list of invasive species for New Hampshire, and then we were going to add some additional plantings in these bare areas with plants that are considered to be native, but also plants that are not going to grow tall and obstruct the view of the pond to meet the desire of the unit owners there. The one thing we wanted to clarify was when they're talking about the wetland buffer, we assume they're talking about this 500-foot section that has had some level of maintenance over the years and is not referring to the rest of the 3,300-foot pond bank that has been untouched, and we don't do anything to it at all. And I'm pretty confident that was the intent, but we just wanted to be very, very particular and specific to avoid any ambiguity. And then the last stipulation was stipulation 8, and this wasn't this was really recommended, but they suggested that we use a snow removal contractor that is Green Snow Pro certified. And my understanding is there's training that the state of New Hampshire gives to snow removal contractors. It teaches them how to remove snow and apply ice treatment using a reduced amount of salt as opposed to what I guess in the past has conventionally been used. So we go out for bid every year for our snow removal contractor. It's competitive, but I can report that we did award the snow removal contract for this coming season to a Green Snow Pro certified contractor. So that's been done. I can't promise, that will be the case in perpetuity. We go out for bid every year. The level of interest can vary from year to year in terms of who bids on it, but we're aware of that requirement. We're aware of the benefit, and I think that is something that if someone has those credentials, it certainly can influence the board's decision, assuming the bid is within the parameters of what's considered to be acceptable. But that's moving forward. But I can tell you the contract for this year was awarded to a Green Snow Pro certified contractor. And that's it. Those were the 8 stipulations. The only other thing I did want to mention, I wanted to fully disclose, it wasn't in the original plan, but this plan adds just 2 4-inch diameter PVC culverts here and here. And that was just we didn't want to create a situation with this new walkway where any rainwater, stormwater accumulates here in the building and doesn't have a place to drain. You know, previously, if this walkway wasn't here, if you look at the topography of the plan, you know, this water would just, you know, drain, you know, towards the pond bank. So we wanted to create a pathway for that water to escape and not pool up and be trapped between the walkway and the building. So we did have 2 4-inch diameter PVC culverts added to allow for that drainage. And again, I just wanted to fully disclose that because it was not on the original plan that was submitted to the city. And that's what we're asking for. It's all stipulated in our letter that was sent to the planning board, and that was our letter dated October 25th, 2023, addressed to Mr. Rick Chelman, if I pronounced that correctly. And
we also apologize for not having those extra slides. I know I did send them to Kate, but apparently they didn't get put
You have to speak into the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize for not having those other slides, but I did send them to Kate. There were a total of 4 that should have been there.
We have them in our packet, actually.
Oh, okay. And that would have,
The overhead view is in our packet. It's in the staff memo.
Yes.
and that basically shows the whole overview of building 5 and 6 that we were talking about, that smaller parking lot. And the parking lot number 5 is what we call an overflow lot, so that definitely would be able to handle the 16 cars that are involved on the building 5 area that we're concerned about.
And if you have the site plan, it does show the entire pond on the site plan. And when I talked about the 32 acres, there's a match line to the right of that drawing. That extends all the way to the town boundary of Rye. I think it used to border up against Rand Lumber. That's gone now, and I think it might be Sea Glass. There's a neighborhood association in there, but it's a pretty sizable piece of land. And that's all I have pending any questions you folks may have for us.
Thank you. I'll just remind everybody the Conservation Commission recommendations are recommendations, but we take them very seriously. So questions of the board, from the board, of the applicant. Yes.
So overall, the whole purpose of this walkway is to allow residents access to the 2 parking spaces that each unit is entitled to. Is that correct?
Essentially, it gives them another option. It gives them another parking lot that they can park their vehicles in, up to 2, and relieve congestion from the one lot that is the only lot that their units is currently connected to.
So this makes it two parking spaces?
It'll give these people 2 options, 2 parking lots, and it's and it gives them a safe passageway. It gives them safe egress. I mean, they can park there now, but they have to walk around. They have to walk in the roadway, and this is basically provide a safer, more convenient way to park their vehicle and get in and out of their unit.
And so all the parking is existing. It's just access to it.
Correct. Right. We are not expanding existing parking lots. It's just to connect access from a select group of units to a parking lot that they currently don't have a walkway connecting them to.
Thank you.
Yes, Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to clarify, so it'd be, the lights would be on these storage sheds on the end of the building? There wouldn't be any underground conduits or anything to the sidewalk itself, right? It would just be shining from the storage
That's
areas?
correct. If we came out of those storage sheds with the power supply,
Yeah.
we would probably just come up high near the roof line. There would probably be some electrical conduit along the roof rake up high, and install a fixture right near the roof edge of the storage shed, shining downward onto the walkway. But right, there would be no ground disturbance activity if we did the lighting that way. There'd be no underground conduit or disturbing the ground. We would come right out of those sheds with the power supply.
Could they be motion detector or no due to ADA? I'm not sure.
Well, I don't think that there's I don't think that there is an ADA requirement that they, right now, all the lighting on the property is on a photo cell from dusk to dawn. But if that was something that was requested in order to receive approval to minimize the amount of hours in the course of the evening that the light is on, I think we could probably install a photo cell at both ends of the walkway, but that probably would require some ground disturbing activity. Because, you know, we would want a photo cell here to turn on as they approach the walkway, and we would want a photo cell over here if they decided to use it. So my guess is, you know, obviously the electrician would probably have to, you know, we might be able to put one shining this way on the shed. We might be able to put something on the building, but I can't promise that. You know, I don't know how they would do it. So it could involve some ground disturbing activity if we went with the photo cells.
What's the current lighting along the existing path?
So along the existing pathway here,
Yeah.
what you have is there's a foyer entryway. So there's, you know, each unit has its own exterior door, but there's a light in the foyer, and it's fairly bright, so it casts out in this direction from each of the buildings. And then the parking lots have two poles. One's fairly low, and the other one's tall with, and they have high pressure sodium fixtures. So the way the property is, the combination of lighting from the entryways and from the parking lot provides sufficient lighting along these walkways.
Okay.
This parking lot here, again, provides a fair amount of indirect lighting in this area. And when I said earlier in my presentation, you know, if this wasn't going to be a no salt area, I think we'd be okay with the level of lighting that's here. But where we are going to designate it as no salt, you know, we took a conservative position and thought that, you know, we should supplement that lighting so people are very clear where they're stepping. You know, sometimes, you know, people refer to black ice. You can get icing conditions that sometimes are visually difficult to see, and you know, we just wanted to, you know, take whatever precautions we thought were prudent to prevent a slip and fall in the wintertime.
Okay.
Would you feel that the lighting is adequate if just lighting was on the shed, sort of in the middle, on the point of the building?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure exactly what's being asked.
Right in the center, just right there.
Yep.
If the lighting for the walkway was only on the one shed extension, not both? Because you said near the other parking lot, it seems like you've got enough light already.
You know, possibly.
I can speak up.
I think it's a little subjective, you know, in terms of what one person might think is sufficient lighting. Somebody might want more, but I think so. But Dave actually was there in the evening. He took some photographs.
Right, we took a photo. You can actually, in the summertime, we have no issue, but it's just the wintertime that we're concerned about. And I actually, up north, I have a property, and I put a motion sensor light that it stays very dim, but once it picks up any motion, it opens up, and it does illuminate much, you know, larger space. And I think something along that line that only shoots to or projects onto the walkway would be sufficient. You know, the bollard lights would also be a lot of digging with conduit and also the concrete pylons that would have to be buried. But I think it would be a much easier situation to do, and if not, if possible, we'd maybe have to do two of them.
Or just two heads on that corner that were motion detectors, not solar, not
Right.
solar detectors, motion detectors. Because that, I think you're going to get light spillover, but if it's limited to only when people are walking on it.
Right.
And the restoration plan do you plan to submit a plan, or?
We do, and I want to make sure I don't misspeak, so I want to capture it verbatim. So what we intend to do is to continue working with the City of Portsmouth staff in the Planning and Sustainability Department, as well as a landscaper in the near future, to develop a restoration plan for the restoration of the vegetation within the existing vegetative buffer and subsequently submit. In talking with Mr. Britz and Ms. Hammett, we talked about getting them something within the year.
You answered the question, thank you.
Okay.
You answered the question, thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you very much. We're going to open the public hearing. Public
Thank you.
hearing is open on this. Anybody here or on Zoom wish to speak to, for, or against this application? Last call. Anybody here or on Zoom wish to speak to, for, or against this application? We'll close the public hearing. Corey's writing.
Bring it on, Corey.
I'll make a motion that we vote to find that the conditional use permit application meets the criteria set forth in section 10.1017.60 and adopt the findings of fact as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Findings adopted.
I'll make a motion we vote to grant the wetland conditional use permit with the following conditions: 2.1, 2.2 as outlined in the staff memorandum, recommending that we change 2.3 to actually be written as any lighting to be installed.
Take your time.
You got a thought on that one? All right.
That the sidewalk be properly lighted and dark sky compliant.
Perfect. Thank you. And the stipulations 2.4 and 2.5 as outlined in the staff memorandum.
Second.
Dark sky compliant won't be motion detectors. They could be on all night. Okay, as long as everybody understands that. Anything else, Corey? Was that it?
I think that's it.
Can I ask a clarifying question? For the 2.2, you're saying as written, so it'll be on all sidewalks within the wetland buffer?
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
Or just the new sidewalk?
just the new sidewalk.
Can I make one more?
Yes.
Because of the nature of the vegetative buffer in 2.1, can we put they should install every 50 feet along the existing vegetative buffer at approximately the 25 feet back from the edge of the pond?
That's a good idea.
And I'd just like to also point out, because I know the Green Snow Pro is a recommendation, it's not a requirement in our approvals. So I just wanted to make sure that was pointed out as well.
That would remain a recommendation.
Exactly.
And the only other item I was thinking was 2.4, just for clarification purposes, a restoration plan will be submitted for restoration of the vegetation within the 500-foot buffer directly abutting the developed portion of the property.
Good point. Peter?
Is it really 500 feet? I know he said that, but you do just mean the area on this plan?
We can remove 500 feet and just have the developed portion of the,
Where they're actually developed in the
Property.
wetland buffer.
As shown on C2.
yeah. And just for the dark sky compliant, should we put in dark sky compliant or motion detector, or?
We could. That way they would have the choice.
It gives them an
I was just trying to think of something
And/or?
that,
Yeah.
And/or motion detected?
Yep.
It's kind of an interesting motion amendment, kind of, I guess you were evolving as you made the motion. So we have a motion that now reads, would you like to read what you have?
Almost have to reread all of them, but.
Let's just make sure
I
we
don't
have-
know if, did we get a second?
Yeah,
Well,
Joe did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe
All right.
seconded, yeah.
I just
comfortable
want
with
to
all
make
that,
sure
Joe?
we're all clear on,
All right, so 2.1 will remain this, well, 2.1 will not remain the same. It'll say, The last sentence will say they should be installed every 50 feet along the existing vegetated buffer, approximately 25 feet back from the edge of the pond. 2.2 will say applicant shall install signage indicating no salt is to be used on the new sidewalk within the wetland buffer. 2.3 will now say the sidewalk shall be properly lit, lighted, and dark sky compliant and/or motion detected. And then 2.4 will say a restoration plan will be submitted for restoration of the vegetated buffer within the buffer directly abutting the development as shown on C2 surrounding the pond within 1 year to the Conservation Commission.
And 2.5 stays the way it was.
And 2.5 stays the way.
Everybody clear on that? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? You're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We've requested of 2422 Lafayette Road Association as owner for property at 2454 Lafayette Road, requesting an amended site plan review approval and amended conditional use permit from section 10.1112.14 for a new motor vehicle sales office. This property is located at Assessor's Map 273, Lot 3, and lies within the Gateway Corridor G1 District, and it's LU-23-160. Who is here to present for this application?
Good morning. My name is Austin Michaelitis. I'm an attorney with Bozen Associates. Here today I have Kelly Burke of the Wilder Company, the property management company for this property, and Mike Seeger, general manager of Tesla Motors, as well as John Bozen is on Zoom joining today. So tonight the applicant, 2422 Lafayette Road Association, is seeking two items: an amended site plan approval and amended conditional use permit for parking. As a brief recitation of this project is located at 2454 Lafayette Road in the Portsmouth Green. The applicant seeks to lease a 3,230 square foot unit of retail space to Tesla Motors as a Tesla sales gallery. That's located directly next to McKinnon's in the highlighted box on that site plan. Essentially what a Tesla sales gallery entails is it's a small new age gallery for motor vehicles, electric vehicles solely. It'll be specifically, this is a perfect floor plan of what will be inside of the unit. It gives the option for customers the ability to learn about Tesla vehicles, Tesla products such as solar panels and EV charging, as well as similar items. As well as to test drive different Tesla EV models around as well. The space will house 2 to 3 vehicles inside, most likely with the size of the unit. There will only be 2 units, 2 vehicles that will fit inside of the unit, as well as 2 vehicles that will be located out in the parking lot with 2 dedicated EV chargers. Due to this exclusive EV charger spots, there will be 2 spots taken out of circulation from circulation, as well, or as such, the previously granted conditional use permit for parking dated 8/20/2019 must be amended. On October 17th, the applicant obtained a special exception from the ZBA to the zoning board to lease this 3,200 square foot automobile dealership in the existing space. The special exception was conditioned upon the applicant obtaining approval of the amended site plan, which is why we're here tonight. The proposal before you will solely impact the site by dedicating these 2 EV parking spaces and eliminating those 2 spots from circulation in the main lot for the Tesla EV exclusive use. On November 7th, the applicant met with the Technical Advisory Committee, and on November 14th, TAC issued its decision to recommend approval of the site plan as well as the conditional use permit. If we go to page 6, right one above. So essentially what we have here is, let's see if I can get this thing to work.
If you hold the top button, yeah.
Beautiful. Here is the unit that we're looking at right now. So outlined on this site plan right here is a previous iteration that outlined a curb cut coming into the unit. That will no longer be taking place. Essentially, the way that the tenant will get vehicles in and out is a temporary ramp that will be stationed inside of the unit. The tenant really only envisions these vehicles being moved every quarter or so, every 3 or 4 months. There will only be 2 inside and 2 outside, essentially to allow the use of these demo drives and test drives. And similarly located right up here is where we have located the 2 EV charging spots. And apart from those 2 spots, there will be no other site plan improvements. And so that's essentially what we're here for tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions of the applicant?
The spot where you're putting the 2 EV chargers, do you already have power there, or are you going to have to dig up and bring power to that area?
From my understanding, there is not power currently. There will need to be retrofitted to these EV charging spots. But I'll defer to Mike.
Thanks.
But that'll just be for Tesla vehicles associated with the dealership, nobody else, right?
Yes.
Any other questions? The applicant? Thank you very much. Public hearing on this. Public hearing is open. Anybody who wishes to speak to, for, or against this application? Here or on Zoom? Busy night at the planning board. I'm going to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we vote to grant the amended site plan approval.
Any findings first?
Oh, that's right, those were sent.
I'm over. I'll make a motion we vote to find this amended site plan application meets the requirements set forth in the site plan regulations and adopt the findings of fact as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Findings adopted.
Now you want me to go? I'll try again. Make my motion to vote to grant the amended site plan approval.
Second.
Is that a second?
Yep.
No. Any discussion?
It's a pretty simple change. I like the idea of the removable ramp. That way it's not there all the time. This is a pretty busy area, especially for cars. And yeah, I think it works.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll make a motion we vote to find that the number of off-street parking spaces are adequate for the property and to amend the parking conditional use permit approval as presented.
Second.
We have findings of fact, right?
Yep.
Oh, we have to do it for both?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Corey.
I'll try. I don't know if I have the right
Well, it's
section.
not there on my list, I forget.
Vote to find that the conditional use permit application meets the criteria set forth in section 10.1112.14 and adopt the findings of fact as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Was that the correct section, Peter?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
That was in the notice, so.
I just want to make sure.
Hold that out there.
All right, and I'll make a motion that oh, actually, Beth, why don't you go on this one?
She was
Just
getting
we
a
want to
little
make this
teary.
as difficult as possible. I'll make a motion that we vote to find the number of off-street parking spaces are adequate for the property and to amend the parking conditional use permit approval as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're approved. Thank you. And speaking of EV charging, great idea, and we talked about it more than a year ago. It was on my list of things that we haven't done much with, but we have gotten through one that I'll mention a little bit later. I don't think we're quite ready for public hearing. I've got some images if folks want to see what an EV charging station looks like. It looks a lot like an existing gas station, but it doesn't have gas, because a lot of the fuel companies have decided this is the way to do it. And so I think we need to look at, if it's going to be allowed by conditional use in certain areas, what are the conditions, and does the character fit in certain zones? Not my decision, but I want the board to be able to think about it. As a principal use, as an accessory use, you can do them right now pretty much anywhere. So it's not like there's an emergency here.
So I guess, yeah, my only question would be, so it sounds like this is commercial use only, not like residential or business use if they wanted to put in a,
Well, they actually have it listed here as permitted in level 1 and 2 for single-family residential districts. But it's already permitted.
You can already do it as,
As an accessory.
if you wanted to put one at your house, you could do it.
right, okay. And as long as, I guess, as long as we're not changing that to affect if people can or cannot put them at their homes.
No, you can do that, just, the current proposal would add it along the waterfront area and also in some of the gateway districts, as I recall. I had a busy day today, so I might not be remembering this, but I know they will look like a gas station. So, and those are more heavily regulated. Now, I realize there's some environmental issues with respect to the underground tanks that are less an issue today than they were years ago. But these things also have transformers of their electrical requirements that I don't know enough about. There's also now battery swap technology as opposed to charging that's coming on pretty fast. I guess Peter's bringing up some images if we want to see some.
Oh, wait, I'm not
You're sharing the wrong screen.
I can see them on my screen.
I know. That's why I'm looking at yours.
I have to share each image, I guess.
Yes, you do. Unfortunately, I think you do. There you go.
So you can do, that happens to be on the side of a parking lot, but it could also be along a street. The city could do that sort of a thing along the street pretty easily. You just flip through these real fast, Peter, if you can.
Share each one. No.
You have to go.
What?
So that's a charging station. It's all electric. I think that one's actually in China, but
Are those solar panels that are on the cardboard above?
Yep.
yeah.
Does the ordinance differentiate between type 2 and type 3 chargers?
Not currently.
Is one significantly different in size and appearance than the other?
Where's the transformer?
Yep, good segue.
Got an image for you. So, down in Seabrook, if we can get this up here. So in the parking lot, it's an accessory to a big box store, and you can see a Tesla charger right in the corner. I guess we're having dueling remotes.
They've got the transformer behind the
But
fence.
This is you can see it sort of peeking out. They didn't quite cover it.
Yeah.
So that's the level of transformer that's required, which, again, in that context, no issues, but certain areas of town might want to think about it.
But is this a level 3? Or do you know?
I think it's a level 2. But that's something we can get clarified, because I just thought, before we charge into a public hearing, if we get questions, I'd like the board to be able to have some understanding of what we're talking about. That was my thinking. Now, if you guys want to charge into a public hearing, go for it. There's more images if you want to see them.
So obviously, this gets all deferred to the HDC when if it's within the historic district as well.
In the historic district, yes.
Mr. Chair, given that we've got the CIP public hearing at the December meeting, and given that you may want to take some time, maybe this moves to January?
Yeah, I would prefer to do that, given the holidays and the CIP and everything else. I mean, I fully support the idea. It's a great idea. I think our ordinance needs to be updated. I just think we need to do a little bit more.
I agree with moving it just because, when you look at in the staff memo, the definition of motor vehicle service station, it's kind of cool that, you can sell hydrogen and everything like that, but it goes across the line and says they'll sell tires. So now you're creating a service station versus a charging station. So even that needs a little review.
Yeah, and if it's going to be by CUP, again, the C part of the CUP, there should be conditions.
Conditional,
that,
yeah.
need to be talked about, so. It's just details and getting it right, that's all. So shall we plan on a workshop in January on this? Does that sound like a good idea?
Yep.
Okay. We'll schedule it and get it on the agenda. We have a request of One Market Square LLC as owner for property at 1 Congress Street, requesting a one-year extension to the site plan approval, originally granted February 16th, 2023.
Do we actually need a vote to schedule that work session or no?
I don't think at this point.
Okay.
I think I can just call it.
Okay, just
And
making
I
sure.
want to talk with Peter and find out what's going on. And
Yep.
I just didn't want to skip a step.
thank you for bringing it up. The meeting last night, I happened to be sitting next to the Public Works Director and asked him about the status of the upgrades next to 1 Congress Street, and he confirmed that it's ongoing conversations, so that's consistent with what I saw in the packet. If somebody wants to make a motion, we can.
I'll make a motion.
They asked for at least a year. I think we can only give them a year, right?
I think,
Right.
yeah, so it'll be a year from February.
Correct.
Yep.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just trying to understand, we're voting on 1 Congress,
Yes.
so is this a 12-month extension or a 15-month extension?
12-month extension from February.
12 months from February.
Yes.
So actually, it's 15 months if you want to get
From
technical.
today, but they have an approval until February, but it's winter, so.
So it just leaves the question, how far in advance can they ask? I mean, if they're asking for it in 3 months in advance, would we allow it if they asked it 3 months ago?
I asked the same question the other day, and it's not in our regulations, so without a specific regulation, they could ask for it now, they could have asked for it 2 months ago.
Okay, it's just odd, that's all. And I think maybe we should look at it.
Point taken. Yes.
I just think in this specific case, because of the complexity of everything that they're trying to juggle, they anticipate they're probably going to need an extension, and therefore, the sooner they ask for it, then the less chance there is of it slipping through the cracks and being,
As a
expired.
reminder, we did support the idea conceptually about the private landowner enhancing the city property. If we don't grant the extension and they proceed, they might just choose not to do it anymore. I mean, I'm guessing that nobody's told me that, but
That is true, yes. That is a possibility.
This is just a data point, but a lot of times we get these requests, and the ordinance requires, I think the word is good cause. They actually included it in here, the reason, which is appreciated, because we don't always get that. Just a data point.
duly noted. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm going to combine the update. The legal department and I finished the rules yesterday. You have the final draft in your packet that you are not expected to have read by tonight because you only got it today. So because of the notice requirements, we'll have it noticed for next month as a general revision, I believe is how the city attorney thought we should notice it, to the rules and regulations, and we will have, it's not a public hearing, but it is a public meeting properly noticed, and we can discuss it and vote on it at that time. Yes, Greg?
Just one little comment. I believe we got the non-red line version, which, since it's been.
There's a reason for that, because
thank you.
since you last saw it, it's been through multiple revisions, and
Okay.
we, the four of us, the three city attorneys and myself, ended up having to use clean copies through a few iterations. So it wouldn't mean anything for you to see a red line.
Too much red, yellow, blue, whatever colors you used.
So if you could, it's not long, if you could just read it, I apologize for that.
Nope.
But
Yep.
again.
Thank you.
with
Good answer.
Multiple
good.
people, that's why you don't have a red line.
No worries.
Yes, Bill?
So if there are, I think there are a couple typographical things that have substantive impact in this. Is it most effective to send that to you and let you, even though it's called final, maybe have a
Yep.
second version of final?
Oh, really final? If you see, anybody sees something wants, yes, please send those comments, and I'll make sure. I think the city attorney is planning to attend at our meeting, so that if there's any questions, we'll have everybody present to deal with that. So, the other update, Mr. Harris is moving to the great state of Maine, and I believe this is his last meeting, so I want to thank him for his service on the board.
Correct. Okay.
And if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.